This is going to be a bit of a kind of a Q&A thing as well. I'm going to be asking you questions as we go through this. I really would like you to try and interact as best you can. I'm also going to look at different ways of using AI a bit later on with different systems that you have in your business. I'm going to go through some of the fundamental stuff of AI. But more importantly, what we're going to do is split this into two sections. The first half of this is going to be AI itself in the industry and what we should be thinking about as personal trainers moving forward, and more particularly what we should be thinking about as online personal trainers, because there's obviously things going around now. People say, well, is AI going to replace what we do as online personal trainers? Is the need for online personal training anymore with what's about to happen? So I want to talk about what is actually happening now in the industry, what are businesses and companies doing in the future, and where does it leave us as online personal trainers? And more importantly, how can we actually leverage this as online personal trainers to make sure that we stand out, not just against competition, but against AI itself, to make sure that we become the go-to people for your potential clients. So they're all the things we're going to be going through today as well. Looks like we've got loads of people on today, which is awesome. Absolutely amazing. Really happy to see everyone here today, which is good. So let's dig straight into this. I'm going to bring up the screen first, and I want you guys just to help me out in here. I want you to put into the comments, wherever you are, just tell me some of the things that you offer as part of your current online personal training service. So what things do you offer? Is it things like workouts? Is it nutrition? What kind of support do you offer? Just drop it into the comments for me. That'll be absolutely amazing. As they come in, I'm going to start writing a few of these onto the screen. So I'm just going to go and bring up the screen now. Hopefully you can see that. So let's put some of the things to actually offer as personal trainers. Again, just drop it into the comments for me so you can hear it. So just let me know. That'll be absolutely amazing. So what things we've got coming here? So we have custom workouts. That's one of them. So let's draw that in here. So we've got it all. So we have custom workouts. What else do we do? We have tailored training plans as well. It comes with the custom workouts. What else we've got in here? Progressive. So, yep, so we progress the workouts. So progressive workouts. So we're talking about progressive overload, things like that. What else do we have down here? So we've got nutrition. What kind of nutrition do we offer? Let's break this down a little bit into this. So a nutrition, workout plans. Okay, what else we got in here as well? We've got feedback, private Facebook group, mindset coaching. What else we got in here? Private Facebook group. Yep. Check-ins. In that chat, proper tracking. Hey, I love the proper tracking in there. So food diary. Loom check-ins. Like the idea of that one. What kind of stuff do we do on the Loom check-ins when we're doing them? There we go. And so we've got the chat as well. So chat, WhatsApp, that kind of thing. I'll just call it chat down here. Got quite a few things in there. I'm sure you guys cannot read my writing, but hopefully you get the idea of what's actually on that. Okay, cool. So there's a few things on there, lots of different things. Rehab programs, again, great. So like rehab programs, everything like that will come under, I guess, workouts, custom workouts and things. Feedback, nutrition, progressions and goals. Again, awesome. That's really good. Cool. So plenty of stuff coming in. Okay. So the reason I wanted to write this down here is to go through this list and just to talk a little bit about what AI is actually doing right now in the industry and what some of the plans are for the future with AI that's in development at the moment and what we should be thinking about it or thinking about those things. So if we take a look at this, I'm going to start marking these things off here. At the moment, there are apps that actually exist that do everything, pretty much everything that we've mentioned on here. So for example, AI currently can do completely customized workouts. I'm not saying it's the best. They are pretty good. I'm not saying it's the best, but they can do custom workout plans. So say, for example, now if you're working with a client personally and the client gives you information, they do an onboarding form, they give you information about their experience, their goals, their current weight and position, what they're currently doing, where they want to get to, what equipment they've got access to, all those kind of things. At the moment, there's actual AI out there that you can input that information into, and it will generate a completely customized workout program. And even from that, what it will do is, as they're entering the information into it, it will progress the workouts for them and give them feedback on those workouts to say you should progress here or you should progress there. There's even stuff out there as well at the moment that allow you to put in how you felt about that particular workout, and the AI can adapt it and adjust it for them. So that's just within the custom workout. So if you're doing just that, we're going to talk about integrations of AI for the app a little bit later on. If you're just offering workout plans to people and you're grabbing information, you're building a custom workout plan, and you're adapting and adjusting it from there based on the data that you have, then at the moment, there's actual AI apps that are doing that at a pretty decent level for the general population. And general population is the important thing I'm going to say here for the general population. There's also ones out there now doing it for rehab-based stuff as well. There's obviously always going to be a need for certain types of populations to have a human element there, but there's custom workouts being done like that. So at the moment, you could say AI is starting to replace the need for us to go and do that. I'm not saying it is, but it could say it's starting to. And that's the same with progression workouts. There's actually AI out there that's actually doing that. And again, we have to think about what we do as trainers if we're delivering these type of programs. If we're just taking that data, writing out a workout, and then giving it to them, and then when they give us that data back, put in the numbers, and then we progress it from those numbers based on their results, then an AI can do that, but they can do it quicker than what we can. AI can do it instantly like that at the moment. So that's something we need to think about when we think about online training and personal training in general. If you're worried about any of this stuff that I'm saying, by the way, don't be. I am going to lead somewhere with this in a minute, but I just want to give you an idea of what's actually out there at the moment. Same for nutrition. If we look at all the different nutrition things that we've been talked about out here, so far you're talking about habit coaching, you're talking about food diary, food tracking, all that kind of stuff. There's AI out there that's already doing that. There's AI out there that even allows you to take photos that can identify what's on the plate and break down the macros for them. There's AI out there that allows them to complete a food diary based on their goals and actually give them a response back. So they can go back and say, hey, maybe you can make a change to this, this, and this. You should lower your calories here. You can increase this. You can make this swap. There's those kind of things. So if at the moment you're getting a client to do a food diary, and during that food diary, you are giving feedback on it, saying, okay, maybe you can make this swap. Maybe you can make this swap. Maybe you should reduce your calories in here based on the data that's in that food diary. So the data's been given to you. You're taking that data and you're interpreting it and giving them some feedback out. This AI that's actually doing that now at a decent level. So it's taking care of some of the nutrition, not all of it, but some of the nutrition. Again, don't worry about any of this. I'm going to talk about where you can go with this in a moment. I'm just saying at the moment, there's AI that's actually doing that. So workout plans we've talked about already. If you're just giving workout plans to people based on their goals, AI is doing that all automatically for them already. In terms of mindset, well, if you do mindset stuff, now this is a little bit different. I'm going to talk a bit more about this. There are some AI things out there, but at the moment, this area, the AI is not too good in it. It might get a little bit better depending on what you want to do, but this is something we should be looking at a bit more at in a minute. We'll dig into that, but there's not really any decent AI out there that's doing high level stuff with mindset. There's AI out there that's giving information advice based on things, but there's nothing really out there that's working on that in a lot of detail. In terms of Facebook groups, yes, at the moment, you can manage a Facebook group and build a community around it. The whole aim of Facebook groups normally is to support clients and have a community. A lot of people say in the online industry that clients come for results, to stay for the community. I do believe there's some truth in that, and Facebook groups do help with that. However, I will say they are now apps out there, AI community-based apps, that actually encourage engagements from other people. So an AI can actually be out there and encourage engagement and have people talking and build a community without the need of a human present being there. So the actual need for that community is actually starting to be replaced by AI as well. Just be aware of it. Same with check-ins. So if we look at check-ins, if we look at some of the app stuff that are out there at the moment, some of the fitness apps and things that are out there, they're automatically doing check-ins. So this, again, depends on your check-ins. If you can, in the comments, it'll be interesting to learn a bit more about this. What type of things do you ask for in your check-ins from your clients? If you can let me know in the comments, and we'll come back to this check-in one in a second. But certain things that you do in check-ins, certain things that a lot of trainers do in check-ins anyway, I know AI is starting to do at a very quick and fast level as well on here. We talked about food diary already in terms of nutrition stuff in there. Chat. Many people here have probably seen chatbots before, and they're working pretty well in some cases. If you look at some of the chat and support that's available out there now, and we're going to talk a bit more about how chat works and how AI works in a minute, but they are pretty good and they're giving relatively good advice. And if the AI is trained well, and I'll explain what I mean by that a little bit later on today, if the AI is trained well, it can give some really good advice back based on this chat and make it feel like an actual person is speaking to them in there. So you could say part of it is actually that chat side of it is also kind of gone from it all. Now, if you're giving feedback to people, you've got Loom check-ins. A Loom check-in is basically looking at the data and giving feedback on it. Again, depending on what you're doing, depends on whether AI can do this or not. Now, of course, an AI can't necessarily do a Loom video and give feedback on it. But if all you're doing is gathering that data from that check-in and then giving feedback on it through a Loom more than just writing it out, then the only real difference there is that they're going to have this idea that a person is going to be there. They know that a human's actually looking at it and giving it back. And we're going to talk a lot about this human element and bot element, AI element in a moment, and the importance of it. So in reality, these kind of check-ins, the purpose of those check-ins is to give feedback to your clients. The purpose of those check-ins is to help push your client further forward towards their goals. So if we take the purpose on it, AI can actually start dealing with those kind of check-ins as well. If we look at some of the things that are coming through here, so we have metrics and scale weight in check-ins. What else we got on here? We have measurements, food diary, macro response, mood, menstrual cycle, stage, barriers, and wins. I'm going to write some of these other things down here as well, some of these key things that you mentioned there, because a lot of those things, metrics, scale weight, measurements, the food diary, the macro, kind of macro response, menstrual cycle to some extent. There is AI out there that doing it. In fact, the menstrual cycle, there's some actually really good AI out there at the moment that's helping a lot of people with that, that already exists out there. Barriers and wins, to some extent, depending on the feedback you give, you can use AI for it. But these kind of key things, the barriers, the wins, the mindset stuff, I'm going to put to one side at the moment because that's what we really need to talk about in here. What other check-in stuff we've got down here? Someone's popped questions. So check-ins. What more last week? Are you losing, gaining, maintaining your weight? Check for signs and symptoms of hormones being off, hunger, cravings, low energy. Good. What do you want to focus on this week? And what questions do you have? Perfect. Cool. So I'm going to circle this check-in one here. The reason I asked that question is because if we look down here, I'd say a good, 85% of the things that we offer online, generally speaking, is slowly starting to be replaced by some AI stuff that's out there. And I understand, and I've spoken to a lot of trainers about this who do get a little bit worried about this. And what I'm going to say is you don't need to be too worried about it. We should actually use this to our advantage. And the way we're going to use it to our advantage is by finding out what we actually truly need to offer online, what we can offer that's different to what any AI can offer. So if you're currently offering an online program and your program is basically sign up, maybe it's a bit more automated, you're delivering a particular program to them, some workouts, some nutrition guides and things like that. In reality, as much as a horrible thing to say, AI is going to replace that. Without a doubt, it's going to replace that. And it's going to replace it cheaply. And I'll talk a bit more about that in just a moment. So what we need to do is we need to find a way that makes us stand out as personal trainers compared to some of the AI stuff out there. And we have to do that in the way that our potential clients now leads understand it. And some of you guys have already mentioned some of these things already within the comments down here. So we take a list of a few of these different things. If we look at like the check-ins, for example, so there are some metrics that we can track, like the weight, the like hormones and all that kind of stuff in there, energy levels, sleep. All those things can be tracked by an AI now within apps, and feedback can be given to help improve them. And it's pretty decent. It is pretty decent. But things that they may struggle with are, for example, if you want to find out things they want to focus on the following week, what do they want to focus on? How they felt that week. And what we call about feelings around stuff, these are what we call subjective check-ins. So I'm just going to summarize all this into one thing as subjective check-ins. So this is basically trying to find out how they felt the last week went, how they feel, what they feel they should be doing in the future. Do they find their results good or bad? How easy or hard did they find those results? All those kind of things are the stuff we want to be including in our check-ins, because that's stuff really that AI can't properly interact with. And the reason it can't properly interact with is because it's not truly data-driven. It's actually driven by their feelings, a human's feelings, your client's feelings. And what you can do as a coach, and a coach being the key word here, as a coach, you can look back at that information and start applying that to the actual metrics. So if you was to look at things like their measurements, their weight, and everything else like that, and it might be going great. They might be going all in the right direction. They might be hitting the targets that you've set them, the numerical targets you've set them, and it's all thumbs up and good. Now, AI can look at that and go, it's all thumbs up and good. But if you have a subjective check-in, which some of you have suggested on here that you do, such as ask questions around like how they felt the week went, what they feel is working well, what they're struggling with, you can look at that and go, well, actually, yes, this is all going great now, but if they're really struggling to maintain this because of this subjective check-in, then in reality, they're not going to do this consistently. And at the moment, it's that human opinion of that human look or that human overview of that subjective check-in that's going to allow you to then make changes. Because yes, they might be hitting all their targets, but it might be better for you to maybe change some things, make the nutrition a little bit easier for them, maybe scale back on some of the workouts that you're doing so they can actually do it more consistently. Because if they're struggling to do it but still getting the results, then they're not going to do it consistently. AI is currently struggling to find a way to do that. I always think they will kind of struggle to do that, because the important thing to remember about AI is data driven and it's a language model. It means that it just uses basic language and data to come up with a solution effectively. And I think as long as we have this human element within our programs, we'll make sure we offer this human element with our programs, that we should be okay as coaches. And there's definitely a way we can go about doing that. So all I will say at this point is, as we go through this, and the reason I'm bringing this up right now is because a lot of people in the comments for this particular training was like, oh, I want to see how AI is used to help me build workouts, to help me do nutrition. Or people saying, I want to have AI plugged into my chat. I want AI to automatically progress my workouts. That's all well and good, but there's already AI apps out there that already do that. And my question would be, if all you're offering is custom workouts and programs, custom nutrition, workout plans, and just doing basic check-ins against data, and then doing things like just basic feedback on it, then what you're offering is no different to what any other AI app is offering or about to go and offer, which means you're not offering anything any more beneficial to that client than what this AI app is actually doing. And that's going to be the important thing, because there's actually a lot of AI apps out there. In fact, the two most downloaded AI apps were fitness apps over the last year. And just in January alone, there was 21 million downloads of fitness AI apps. 21 million. And these fitness AI apps here cost between $3 and about $10 on average. Some a little bit more, but that's roughly the range what a lot of these are doing on here. So my question would be, if you're an online coach and what you're offering is maybe like either PDF programs, or maybe you're offering just some custom workouts with some progressions in there, then why should they come to you if all you're doing is these things here in this red box? Why should they come to you if they can get that for free and if they can get that for $10? Now, the reason they might want to come to you is because you're doing these extra things on here. You're focusing on how they actually felt throughout the program. You're using subjective check-ins with them. You're actually applying the most important thing, which is this human element to it. And this human element has a lot of key things around it. Just sometimes working with a particular client, knowing that there's a human on the end of it and not an AI on the end of it, can make all the difference when it comes to adherence. So it's making sure that if you are going to offer any online programs, that whatever you do, you're going to make sure your program follows this kind of stuff and is more focused on this stuff than what it is on this stuff here. Because custom workouts, progress, nutrition, all these things here, these are just tools to help your clients get a result. Your ability as a coach online is using these things here, these subjective check-ins, and these conversations, this human element, and actually applying this human feeling behind what they're doing, because you have the ability as a coach to look between the lines. So my real point here is, unless you're actually offering this level of online coaching, within the next few years, if all you're offering are these things down here in the red box, then you are literally going to start pricing yourself out the market, because you can't really compete with you can't compete with these amount of apps at this price point. You're not going to make enough money from it. And the only way you're going to make enough money at this price point here is if you sell literally hundreds and thousands of them a month. And when you're doing that, you're competing against companies that have hundreds of people working behind the scenes. You're competing with people who have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of advertising spend and resources on marketing to bring people into those apps. That's what you're having to compete with. Now, the beauty about this is that all this is happening in the general public area, the general population. These apps, the reason they're spending so much time when they can do it so cheaply and they get high numbers is because they're going for the general population. Now, that's a good thing. And you might be thinking, well, Ash, why is that actually a good thing if they're going for all these general people? It's because we know as coaches, and we've been talking about this for a long time now in the fitness industry, that having a niche is particularly important when it stands online, because we're having to compete really with other trainers in the industry. And the more niche you are, the more you can stand out from all the noise. The problem is now that noise is going to get bigger because we have all these AI apps that are also competing with us, and we have to compete against them. But they're going for this general population over here. Now, if you have a niche, it means you can stand out from this general population here. It also means as well that if you're working in a very tight particular niche, you have that human element. People are going to come to you. So let's say, for example, if you want to work with, we've just been speaking to a client of ours over the Done For You service who specializes with longevity, life longevity for menopausal women. That's what their specialty is. If you take that as a niche and go down that route as a niche, the human element is going to make a difference. It doesn't matter what level of AI is being used in any other app that's out there that might cost you like $10 a month or whatever. It doesn't matter what's being used there, because what you're offering is very specific. They're going to want that human element. They're going to want to have those conversations and that trust that that person has that experiences, and that that coach understands the nuances of that niche. And even though you can still use AI a little bit, which we'll demonstrate in a minute, to help you include some of these nuances around that niche when it comes to program design and workout design, we'll talk about in a minute. That's only really with general niches. So a lot of people say I have a fat loss niche. Well, fat loss isn't good enough for a niche anymore. It needs to be more specific. People say busy professionals is good enough for a niche. It's not specific enough. Over these next few years, as AI starts to develop more within the fitness industry, you're going to have to get more specific if you want to be more successful within the fitness industry or the online fitness industry. You're going to have to get specific. So in order to be, I think anyway, looking at the data, in order to actually have a successful online fitness business over the next, say, 5 years or so, you're going to have a very specific niche, and you're going to have to offer more than just this on here. You're going to have to offer more than that, because if you don't offer more than that and you don't have a very specific niche, you're competing against a huge amount of resources that are going against your favor, huge amounts. And I'll give you a really good example of this as well. Even if you was to get someone into your program and they're maybe on a subscription model or something like that, when they get to the point where they can start doing these things themselves, if they go and find these other apps and things that are marketed to them, they're probably going to go to them. And I use my wife as a really good example. My wife has trained with me before. She's very switched on. She knows she's really experienced inside the gym, and she has very specific goals. I could write her plans and do programs for it and check in with her and stuff like that. But she can use an AI app now, and that AI app can hold her accountable. It can make custom workouts for her that are just as good, really, as the ones that I would really give for her based on the goals she does. It can check in with her. It can make sure that she's actually doing things properly in there. These AI apps now, that even this one she has, can actually assess her form as well on there. And that's done for less than $10 a month. So even if they're working with you in these programs, if you're doing that over a long period of time, eventually they're going to get to the point where they can become semi-self-sufficient as a client, and then they can start taking these other apps are going to be then think, actually, well, why am I paying you $100 a month when really all you're doing is giving me exactly the same thing at this point in time that this $10 a month app is actually doing for us? And they're the things we need to start looking at how we're going to go and compete with. And the way we're going to go and compete with some of these is by doing two things. The first thing is we're going to use AI, and we'll leverage AI to help us do these things so we can do it quicker within our business. And second of all, we're going to actually start really implementing the fundamentals of any kind of fitness business. And I think this is really where a lot of trainers need to start looking at doing. They need to look at the fundamentals of online coaching. They need to look at the fundamentals of actually running a fitness business. And if you do that, it's really going to help. And the reason I think it's really important is because at the moment, that's not what actually happens. Now, just for some context, if no one's ever met me before, I run a company called ptdninja. We also run something called the Online Personal Training Certification. Part of that service is a Done For You service, which means trainers come to us. And when they come to us, they say, right, Ash, I've got this idea. I want to go and build this out for them. And effectively, we'll give advice where we can if you want us to. But fundamentally, what we create is the systems and service that you want us to create for you. And what that's done is given us lots of data. It allows us to see what works really well in the online fitness industry and what doesn't work so well. And of all the businesses we work with, which is over 1,000 different businesses now, fitness businesses, there's definitely some fundamentals, some keys, some systems that are consistent throughout all of those businesses that are successful. The ones that aren't successful, the ones that struggle or find like they're fighting all the time to stay ahead, are missing these key fundamental things. And this comes down to not just the business itself, but how you actually deliver things online. And interestingly enough, the fundamental principles behind running an online business, the fundamental principles behind online personal training and coaching are actually all based around these things here that we talked about at the beginning. Yes, there's an approach we need to take to all these, but the approach we take to all these is based on what we learn over here. Now, that's good news for us, because that basically means that fundamentally, we don't have to change too much. Yes, there's going to be AI out there. Yes, it's going to replace a lot of the stuff out there, as I mentioned. If all you're offering is some basic custom workout plans with some progressions and regressions and things like that, and some tracking in, some checking, and some chatting an app, you're going to get replaced in the online world. I'm sorry, but that's just what's going to happen over the coming years. There's not much that we can really do about that. But what we can do is start adapting our business model and structure to suit this new way. And luckily, these fundamental things aren't changing. These fundamental things are going to be exactly the same. And that's good for us. So what you need to do really as a coach, if you are concerned about this, is to actually think about how to implement these fundamental things into your business. And I'll explain what I mean a bit about that. So let's just go, and I always use when I'm working with people a kind of this analogy of a building. So let's say on here, we're going to get our building, and you're a personal trainer, you're working in person at the gym, you decide you want to go online. So the first thing you're going to do is, right, I need to get some clients and build a program. So very quickly, what you do is you build your little building on here like that. And in there, you shove it with all the information and stuff that you know. And then what you do is you try and pump clients into that building that's on there. And you go, right, okay, cool. I'm filled to rafters here. I've got all my clients on. If everything's going well, you're just like filling up, filling up, filling up. Hopefully, that's what's actually happening. And then you go, right, then I need more space. So I'm going to build on top of this up here. I'm going to shove this with more information and clients as well. And then you go, okay, now I'm trying to do that. I need some extra help and support with this. Maybe I need to bring more leads in, because at the moment I'm working so hard because I've got so much information. I'm in my building at the moment, and I'm trying to say, okay, this client needs this information. This client needs this information. This one needs this one. This one's got to do this. This one's got to check in on this day. Because you haven't really got these systems and fundamentals in place, it's quite difficult to do. So what you might do is go and think, actually, I'm doing this, I'm working really hard, I'm not making enough money for the work I'm putting in, I need to get more clients in. So you try and then bring on more clients at the top. You might then start bringing in a coach or someone to help you that might help you try and instill one foundation or two foundations, maybe around sales and marketing, maybe on some systems and things like that to try and help out. But eventually what happens is you don't have all these fundamentals in place. You keep trying to grow your business. And as your business starts to grow, your skyscraper building here is starting to become unstable because it doesn't have those foundations in place. So if, say, for example, we have a little gust of wind over here, which is for maybe an economic downturn, and then we have another gust of wind over here, which is more these new AI apps that are coming out doing almost the same thing that you do, because you haven't got these systems in place, your building is going to wobble, and you're going to spend all your time trying to keep it upright. And if you're doing that in your business now, if you're sat there waking up in the morning going, I've no idea what I'm actually doing today, you feel like you're firefighting all the time, you feel like you're stressed from it all the time because you're thinking, no one's interacting with my content, no one's signing up, or when I do sign up my clients, they want refunds, or I'm not being able to service all they want to, or people are struggling on getting too many questions and spending too much time on coaching calls and doing check-ins and onboarding clients. That is basically you trying to put these stilts and supports in to hold up your business. And eventually what's going to happen is, especially what's going to happen in a few years, is all this is going to come tumbling down to the bottom because you haven't got those foundations and those fundamentals in place when it comes to the coaching approach or the business approach as well. And what we want to do is double down on that now as coaches. And if we double down on that as coaches, what this allows us to do is we can come now and go, all right, let's start building these fundamentals. And there's 8 fundamentals of any successful online fitness business. I know I put 8 inside there. There's 8 of them. And that goes away from any of the business stuff that you do, the sales systems, the marketing, the lead generation, how you actually structure your programs online, how you actually coach online is in there as well, your client deliverables, more about you as well and what you do in your business. There's quite a few different ones. I'm not going to go into them a lot of detail on here, but there's 8 fundamentals in there. And if you can go and establish those fundamentals at a basic level at the bottom, what you can then do, and this is where AI is going to come in handy, you can start to build your building at the bottom. And what you do when you understand these fundamentals, you don't cram it with as much stuff. You have a lot more organized systems inside here, like a few shelves of information on here, and you have a process and a system that any client can come in. And what you're doing with your advertising out here on your sign is that it's very specific to a type of client. So you're going to attract a very specific type of client. And when they get in here, all they're going to see is information and processes and systems specifically designed to help them get from A to B to get a particular result. Now, you're going to do that. You're going to test it out. It's going to work out. You think, great, right, I've got all my clients in here. I'm making a good amount of revenue. Let's build this up a little. Let's bring more in. And now, because you've got these foundational things in place, you just turn up the sales side of it a little bit, some of the lead generation side of it, and you can build your next floor. And then your next floor, you put in your content again for them, and you can start bringing in your next clients into this. And then you can do the same again and build up even more. And this is where AI is going to come in handy. Because you've got these foundational things in place, you have a good system in place that's targeted to the right type of people coming in, what you do down here is you put your AI receptionist into this. And when you've got your AI receptionist in here, you can leverage this AI to help you do certain things. So you can leverage it to help you with making adjustments to programs. You can leverage it to help you create things like recipes or even meal plans if you really want to do them. Again, I'm not a massive fan of those based on the data, but you might want to do them. It depends on your niche and who you're actually working with. And using AI here can help you with that. It can help you with your marketing. It can help you with your creating blog posts and social media. It can help you understand who your avatar is. It can even use it to create, as I mentioned, not just recipes, but recipe packs and recipe books. Now, anyone out there that's spending, money each month, maybe on recipe subscription and stuff like that, if you wanted to, you could easily use AI to create custom recipes for your clients and use something like MidJourney. We're going to look at all of this in the next few minutes. MidJourney, if you wanted to even create a lifelike image of that meal from that recipe. So you could do all that if you wanted to use AI. I'm going to show you how to do all this in just a moment as well. And because you've done all this and you've got a building built on good foundations, you've got all these fundamental things in place, it doesn't matter what the weather throws at it. You can even get wrecking balls coming in if you really wanted to, and it still won't matter because you've got the good foundations in place, the right foundations in place. And it's this here that we really need to be focused on doing in our fitness businesses. We really need to be focusing on the systems that we have behind our business. We need to be focusing on how we actually coach people online. We need to become online coaches more than online personal trainers and look at how we can add that human element into our business. Now, you might be thinking, why have I just spent the past 20 minutes going over that side of things before we go straight into the tech? The reason I wanted to go and do that is because I want to talk about the tech that you can use to do what I've just talked about there. It'd be very easy for me to come on here and say, hey, this is AI. This is how you make AI write a workout for your client. This is how you make AI write a meal plan for your client. This is how you make AI coach your client for you. This is how it can answer messages for you, whatever. I could go and do all that. You might be thinking that's what I really want to do. And yes, you can get it to do those kind of things. But if you think about what I've gone through there, if I was to show you to go and do that, all I'm doing is setting you up for failure because you're going to build these systems out, let AI do all the work for you, and then you're going to charge your clients probably the same amount of money you're doing now, but it's going to save you some time. And over the next few years, all that's going to happen is an app's going to come along that does it quicker, specifically for it, and a lot cheaper. And that's going to become your competition. It's going to either drive your clients away or it's going to drive your prices down. And that's going to be a bad thing for your business. So for me, it's really important that I give you the resources and the advice and just what I think is going to be important for you moving forward if you want to be a successful online personal trainer moving forward in the future, is that you need to look at this in a different way. You need to use AI and leverage it to help you in your business to become a better coach. That's why I wanted to go through that first. And that's what I'm going to be basing all this around. Now, before we jump into that, there's two things I want to mention. I'm going to be explaining how AI works in a minute and how to use that. I do actually have a guide for this as well. There's no signing or anything like that. And everything I'm talking about, everything I'm about to demonstrate to you here, the things you need in order to go and do that, I've just sorted out in a Google Doc for you. If you want a copy of that Google Doc, it's going to have all these things called prompts, which we're going to talk about in a minute. Everything we're going to talk about today is going to be in there. All I want you to do is just in the comments, just write guide, and then I'll send it over to you once it's done. Because it's just in a Google Doc, it's not like an opt-in link or anything like that, so I need to send you a link for it. So there's no opt-ins, nothing like that. It's literally just a Google Doc that you can have access to. Just write guide in there. I'll send it over to you, and it will basically give you everything that I'm going to go through now with you. I just want to get that in now just in case people don't hang around to the end and they'll miss out on it. So just drop that into the comments and I'll make sure that gets sent over to you if you want it. The other thing as well, as I mentioned already about these fundamentals and foundations, I didn't go into too much detail about them, but if you are struggling with any of those things that I've talked about when it comes to your online fitness business, if you are struggling with how do you actually build these fundamentals in place, how do you actually build, launch and grow a successful online fitness business, please do get in touch. That's exactly what we are here for. Of course, we have PT Distinction, which is the app, but PT Ninja is all about helping you launch and grow and build a successful online fitness business. And we do that through our online personal training certification. So if you want to be a certified online personal trainer, if you want to build, launch and grow a successful online fitness business, and if you want to do that for the next 30 days, you can literally get in touch. The course is literally lifetime access. You get supported by me and the team as you go throughout it all. We have everything already pre-built and set up for you as well. All the white label content is in for you to make it really easy for you. And we have a double investment back guarantee, which means that if you don't earn back double what you pay for the course within 30 days, we'll literally work with you. I'll work with you one-on-one until you actually do. We're really that keen on actually trying to help you be successful. It's good for good for the industry, but it's also, of course, good for Peter Distinction as well. So you want to find out more about that, you can head over to the website, which is ptdninja.com, this side, /OPTC, or feel free just to get in touch, drop me a message, and we can have a chat, and I'll tell you a bit more about that. So all that said, let's go and dig in. The first place I'm going to show you we're going to go into is a software called ChatGPT, which I'm sure many of you have seen before. The reason I'm choosing this is that the premise behind today's AI is because you can actually use this for free. There is a paid version, which we are going to be doing some stuff with today. But there's also a free version of it, which you can have access to, that allows you to do probably 80% of the stuff we do today, you'll be able to do on the free version as well. The stuff within that prompt guide, by the way, you'll be able to do on the free version. That's why I built that guide up for, so you can use it on the free version. So you don't need to have the paid version of this. Some of the stuff I'm going to talk about, you may want to get it for it, and it is good for it. We're also going to use something called MidJourney as well. I'll talk a little bit about that. I'm not going into too much detail about that because you will need a paid version for that, but I will explain a bit about how that actually works. They're the two things we're going to talk about and do things on today. That said, there are other AI software out there. There are other pre-built AI software out there that do lots of different things. So, for example, you have some that specialize in copywriting. You have some that specialize in appointment setting. You have some that specialize in all sorts of different things like social media content, writing blog posts, writing websites, all that kind of stuff. And the reason I'm using GPT here is because ChatGPT is built on something called OpenAI, and most of this AI software that you see around is built on top of this. So this is the fun. This is like the back of it, if you like. This is what everything is actually built off. For the most part, it's what things are actually built off. So to me, it makes sense to start in here and explain how that works. The other reason I want to go through this one here is because if you understand the basics of AI and how it works, and I'm not going to go into like the complicated detail. I'm going to very simple way of putting this across. If you understand the basics of how AI works, and you understand that now, it means you're going to be ahead of the curve. It means you're going to be able to make sense of all the stuff that's going to come out, and it's going to give you that head start across anybody else who's not really using AI in their business. So with that all said, let's just go into and take a look at it all for me. So let's open this up. There you go. So up on the screen now, you can see we have our ChatGPT. If you want to find this, you can just type in chat.openai.com, and you can go and create yourself an account in there if you want to. If you haven't got one, it doesn't cost anything at all. There is a plus version, which you can see on the screen now, which is what I've got. I just want to quickly talk about this particular software itself and how things work in here. So the first thing, I'm going to switch this over to at the top. You can see we have something called 3.5, ChatGPT 3.5, and ChatGPT 4 over the top. So this one here is the kind of pro version, if you like, the plus version. In order to get access to this, you'll need to have the plus program. If you was to sign up with this without paying for it, you'll get access to this on here. And you'll notice when you hover over the top, there are definitely some differences between the two. The first one is very fast, and I'll demonstrate the difference between the two in a minute. Fast is basically, what I mean by that is it responds really quickly to you. And it's great for pretty much everyday tasks that you want to do. Now, this plus version on here, the number 4 version, is a lot more capable, but it's really good for tasks that require a bit more creativity. It's got more advanced reasoning in here, but it is a little bit slower. Now, when I say slow, it's not that slow. I will demonstrate the difference between the two, but it is noticeably slower in terms of the responses that you actually get through. But it does allow you to have more creative responses. It does allow you to ask more advanced questions and reasoning. So for some of these things we do on here, you may find you get better responses from the ChatGPT one itself. So look inside here. Someone's saying they keep losing some connections to live stream. Can you share replay after? Yes, of course I can. I can change it out after. It does look like it's generally okay internet wise here, but I mean it could be a Facebook thing or something like that. But yes, if anyone's in here and they want to replay, again I can send it through to you. If you're watching live, if you've commented, or if you're worried and you want to replay, just type replay in the comments, and I'll make sure you get a copy of this sent through as well, along with the guide and stuff that I put together. Okay, cool. So let's go and dig back into this. So we have the two different versions inside here. Now, basically, what ChatGPT is what's called a language-based model. The idea is that you ask it a question, and it uses some really cool advanced programming to give you a response. And it is basically language-based. So all it is, it will respond to whatever you say to it. It's not what we call general AI. A lot of people think AI is kind of like what you see on TV and stuff like that. It's not. It doesn't think. It doesn't. It's not real. It's not a person. It doesn't have emotions as such. It can understand emotions, but it doesn't have them. And that's an important thing to understand here. This is purely just a language-based model, which means we can ask it certain stuff and it can scroll the database that it's got and come up with a very logical answer to whatever it is we're actually asking them. And it can really help us and aid us in a number of different things. Now, the way it works is really quite simple. Once you're in here, you have these things on the side called chats. When you first go into this, this will be completely empty down here. And to start a chat, what you do is click add new chat, and it will look like this on here. And down the bottom, you can just go and send it a message. So you can very simply just type in hello, and it would respond back to you. Really, it's quite that simple. And the best way to think about this, and the reason I've used hello there, is to treat this like an assistant. If you speak to it in this particular way, it will say, how can I assist you today? And that's the best way to think about ChatGPT, honestly, is to think about it as like, this is going to be my AI assistant, my personal assistant to help us with particular things. So imagine if you had an assistant on hand working with you in the office. Think about the things you might ask that assistant to do. And then that's kind of what you would use this AI for, is to help you with those particular things. And likewise with an assistant, if you had one and you ask them to go and do something, when you first start working with them, you're probably going to check all their work. And then once you check the work, you're going to give them feedback on that work so they can learn from it. So the next time they do it, they can actually do it better. That is exactly the same way you should treat this in here. So you'll notice now I'll put hello in here and it's asking me to assist it. Over here, you can see a new chat has started. Each chat, the best way to think about each chat within here is imagine this is a new person. So if you're trying to work with a particular assistant in real life, if you was to ask your assistant to write you a social media post about your business and they wrote you something and they might go, hey, okay, what is your business all about? You'd tell them. And then they will go and do a post for you. And then if you hired another assistant by saying another chat and you ask them the same question, they'll be like, well, what's your business all about? It won't know what your business is all about because they're a completely different person and you haven't told them. So the way this works really is imagine this chat is like its own person. And when you're speaking to them, everything you say to them, they'll remember and they will learn. And this is what I meant by this kind of training approach. You can actually train your assistant within here to understand more about your business and get to do particular things. Bear in mind, this assistant has instant access to the world, to all this information and data and stuff that they've got. And the more specific you are with that assistant, the better and easier it's going to be when it comes to asking it particular questions. So what kind of questions can you ask or use AI for, or get to try and do? The way we ask questions to it, we don't really just call them questions, we call them prompts. Now, prompts are very specific, very detailed forms of questions that you can put into any kind of AI really, but specifically ChatGPT, and it's going to give you a response to it. So to give you an idea of what that might actually look like, let's just go and find one for you on here. I've got some prompts written up here. This is part of the document I'm going to send through to you. So I'll send you this through so you can have a look at it. So you'll see on here, I have a prompt that's set up. And while I'm doing this prompt, and I'm giving it some context, and I'm letting it know exactly how I want it to be and how I want it to work. So if we take a look at this one, I'm going to try and ask ChatGPT to make me a workout program for a particular type of client. So I'm going to ask it, I'm going to say, act as a certified online personal trainer. I want it to act like a personal trainer, act like an expert. If I didn't give it that context, if I didn't tell it how to act, if I didn't tell it what I wanted it to actually be, it could just send me a very basic workout out. Something you might get in, I don't know, one of those magazines that you buy somewhere. But if I ask it to be like a qualified personal trainer, or if I ask it to be a physiotherapist, or ask it to be a nutritionist, it's going to approach it in that particular way. And then what I can also do is I can tell it to use language in a very particular way as well. So if I didn't give it this context of the personal trainer, it might use language that's not at the level that you want it to be. So it's important that you give it context when it comes to delivering any kind of prompts into it on here. So Lisa put a good question here, but you do need to tell them about it, your business each time, correct? Meaning it's not going to remember info about you. Yes and no. So if we go back to, I'll bring Lisa's questions up before I get into these prompts. So this is what Lisa's saying here. If you was to go in here and start a new conversation every single time, yes, you'd have to tell it about your business every single time. If you keep it on the same thread, then no, it already knows. It's like a person. So you don't have to tell it every single time. It will remember if you've taught it something. And like down here, for example, I have some of these labeled up. So for example, I have my ideal avatar for my for our business on here. You can see this thread's absolutely massive in here. Like it's a long, long thread because I've been teaching it about my avatar. So for example, our avatar here for ptdninja is personal trainers that want to take their business online and be successful. So I taught it about my avatar. If I actually scroll right back up here, I started off with some basic premise, all the way back up to the top, some basic premise around here to help developing the avatar. I got to work with it. We came up with who the avatar was and built it out from there. So it actually understood and helped me develop who the avatar was. And then from there, I can start asking it questions. And one of the things I actually did with this, and we're going to do this together shortly as well, is I actually got to create an avatar and I asked it to summarize an avatar that I can use within a prompt. So then if I wanted to start any other of these kind of threads up on here, these other chats up on here, I can set the avatar and basically just tell ChatGPT to go, okay, well, actually, for all the responses moving forward, I want you to make sure they are relevant to this particular ideal client avatar and my business, and then give them that context to it. And then everything from there will be in context to that. You just have to tell it to go and do it. But yes, if you change around to different ones, then you're going to have that issue. If you keep within the same chat, then you won't do. Hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, I'll try and explain it a little bit better. So yeah, if we head back over to here then, so we have this prompt. So in this case here, I'm not going to put any real context in this telling about the business or anything yet. You can do this later on, but I'm just going to base it on this prompt here. So we're going to get to act like a personal trainer. I wanted to create a structured workout program for my online personal training client, who is whatever the gender is at birth, the age, body weight, height. In fact, any other details you want, the more details you give them, the better. Think about this if you were the personal trainer, because that's what you're asking this to be. You're asking it to be a personal trainer. You're actually asking it to be you effectively. So give it the information you would want in order to make a better educated approach to this program design on here. So you can see I've split it all up here. We can put in the goal of the program, over what period of time, where the client's current position is, the type of program I want to do. I want multiple workouts. I want it balanced across major muscle groups. Each workout should include the name of the exercise, number of sets, reps, or time, tempo, intensity, and rest time. And this should be presented in a table format so it's easy to understand. And what I've also done as well, just so you can give it a go within this guide, and again, I'll send it over to people, is I'll give you an example so they can test it out. So if we actually take this example here, this is already filled out for my client. I'm going to go and pop this in. So I'll do a new chat just to make it easier in here. And I'm going to use ChatGPT 4 for this one. You don't have to, you can use any of them for this. I'm going to drop it in and hit return. And I want to show you this because I want to show you the speed difference. If you remember back the first one we did, the first one was very quick. It responded very quickly. You can see this is a little bit slower. It's taking time to think about it and think about how it's going to lay it out for me. So at the moment, the AI is going away thinking, okay, absolutely, I'm fine to do it. Think about it. It's like a person. Imagine it's like a person. And now what we're starting to do is build out this particular workout program for me, put it into a format that I can really easily understand and put together. And it's even going to give me advice around it as well. So you can see at the top there, it's making sure that I check my doctor and all that kind of stuff in here. So it's helping guide you. And I think that's an important thing to remember here, that this is actually a guide to help you go and do something. You should always apply your common sense to this. And again, this is here just to help you out. If you are on here, and as I mentioned earlier on, when we were talking about the fundamentals behind your business and the coaching side of it, this is what AI is doing right now. And I'm going to show you how this can be adapted by AI in just a second based on clients' results. And we're going to do that together on here. This is happening all automatically for them on here, and it's scheduling all this kind of stuff out. So if we want to change that into something else, again, I'll give you another example. I did one a little bit earlier on. I can change the context and put a bit more detail in than what I did in this one. So I did put a lot more detail in this one here. And I asked it to do a 4-month workout in this case. And I want to split this up, give me the first week to start off with, and it split it into the different phases for me and broke it down this way. So depending on how you ask it to do stuff will depend on how the outcome actually comes out from it. Now, once you've actually done that, if your client goes away, and I've got a question coming in, I have to run, but please send a replay. This is fascinating. Yep, no problem at all. I'll send a replay through to you. So let's say your client comes in here and they're giving you this detail. You can take this now and you can use this to help you with your program design. Now, if you're using the ptdninja app, if you set it up right, this should be pretty quick and easy to do because you can use groups. You can have different programs set up for different types of clients. And what you can do if you want guidance on this is actually use this to help guide the type of workouts you want to build. Of course, if you did want help with setting all this kind of stuff up over at the OPTC and ptdninja, we have all this stuff already pre-built out for you so you can use it all. But it gives you something to get started with, at least in here. And then what you can do is you can start adding prompts to adapt the program. So down here, you can see I've given an adapting the workout prompt. So this prompt here goes into a bit more detail and it asks you to adapt it based on the client's results. And again, I've given you an example down here. So my client complete the workout provided, record their results, and then it puts in the results for that client down here. So you can see I did the 50K barbell and all that kind of stuff. So I can take that and I can drop it back into my chat for that particular client in here. So now what I've done is I've dropped it back in. There it is. I put back in. And I've just done this. I did this a little bit earlier on just to demonstrate it. See, I'm going to keep watching it load up all the time. But down here, you can see it's actually made adaptations for that program. So it's made recommendations for progressions for that client on here based on the information I've given it. I also said on there as well that client was struggling with the stability in the movement, so they can do an exercise swap as well. So they changed it now to a seated dumbbell shoulder press, change the weight of it and all that kind of stuff for me, depending on what I want them to do. Now, again, I'm not saying this is perfectly right or anything like that. What I'm saying is it's just a guide out there. And I really want to show you this because this can help you with that kind of thing. If you're out of time, you haven't got time to think about any of this stuff. But yeah, that's kind of what I want to demonstrate this. And I want to show you this is what other apps and stuff are doing out there as well. Now, you can do exactly the same with nutrition as well if you wanted to. For example, if you wanted to create a macro guide for your clients that you could drop into like a text document in PTD. If you wanted to quickly do something like that, again, we've got a prompt in here for it. And I'm not going to go through it in too much detail, but it follows the same premise here. It adds clarity about how you want them to act, what you want to do, gives them as much detail as possible. So the more detail you can give it, the better. So we can take that, drop it in, and again, it can pump that out. So here's an example nutrition guide. If I go back up here, I put it in and it demonstrated it for me, gave me a guide based on the needs, explained it to my client in very simple detail, because that's why I asked it to go and do, explain how it worked it out, gives them the breakdown of what they should be having. And then down here, we'll talk about this Zapier thing in just a minute. That's something I've done with PTD, but I'll explain that in a minute here. And then down here, it breaks down how they should do it throughout the day, and then actually gave them a bit of an example meal plan with example meals in there. And I can even take this and create a recipe for these kind of things as well. So I could actually take this and just say, can you create me a recipe for this? It can go out and it can start creating a recipe for me. Again, it will take a minute or two because I'm using the 4 version of this, and it'll start creating me recipes and stuff for that in the background. Now, I'm going to come back onto that kind of stuff in a minute. These are prompts. Now, these prompts, again, can be used not just for this kind of thing. They can also be used for some of the marketing. They can be used for creating avatars that we've talked about as well. They can even be used for providing feedback for client messages. So let's say, for example, you have a client that sent you a message and you have a rough idea about how you want to respond to them, but you want to get some help on that response, structure it a little bit better. Or maybe you just haven't got the time to go and write it all up. You just want a template to get started with. So you can use a prompt like this to give you some feedback. Again, fill in the details for the client and put in the client message. So I'm going to use an example down here. I want to add to certified trainer, again, adding that context in there, and then adding the client's message at the bottom. Again, you'll have access to all these prompts. I'll get them sent over to you. But we can take that and we can drop it in. So you can see in here now, there's that one I've just popped into the top. And down here at the bottom, you can actually see the response. So it gives you a little email to send back to them, explains how they should actually react to that, and it gives you a response to that particular question. So again, that can really just help you out and speed up some of that process for you as well, and just makes life a little bit easier. So again, you can kind of hopefully get a feel for what this is all about. The whole aim of this really is just to help aid you. Use it a bit like an assistant to start off with. Now, you could take it a little bit further than that. You can start using it for things like social media, for avatar creation, for writing blog posts and anything like that. If you're going to do that for your business, we talked earlier on about the importance of making sure if you really want to stand out now more so than ever, is you'll actually need to make sure you have a niche that you're working with. And the best way to utilize any AI like this is to really teach it more about your niche. And one of the simplest ways to do that is to actually open up something like this, another chat, and ask it to help you create it. Now, you could have a prompt that just helps you create a niche straight out. I don't really like doing that way. I find it better to go through this process here and ask it to help you find a niche. Now, I've got a prompt for you to do this, and what I recommend you do if you haven't got a niche nailed down or you want to teach ChatGPT to actually understand your niche more, start with this prompt. Again, it's in here for you, ready to go. Start with this prompt, and then with that prompt, follow the steps on here. It's going to tell you what to research, what to look at, and just start teaching it stuff, giving it information. Once you've given all this information back to them, it'll keep asking you questions because that's what I've told the prompt to do. And then once it's got enough information, it'll start summarizing who your actual niche and ideal client is. Once you've done that, you can ask for that summary and you can use that then in all your chats. And once you've done that, it makes it easier. So you could set up a chat saying, okay, I need help creating social media content ideas for this particular avatar. And it will actually pump out some ideas for you. Once you've got those ideas in there, you can take those and say, okay, can you write me 4 social media posts for this particular idea? Or another good way of doing this is saying, based on the avatar below, what would you say are 5 of the biggest barriers for them achieving X, Y, Z, whatever it is their end goal is? Let it come up with it. Again, check it. It's an assistant. Remember this assistant. So you need to apply a bit of common sense to this as well. See what it comes up with. If something's not right and you don't think that's right, then correct it. Say, actually, that's not entirely right. This would be a better approach to go and take, or this might be a better thing to do in there. And it will update it and it will learn from that. Then once you've got those particular posts on there, you can say, actually, now can you create me 5 social media topics for this particular barrier, 5 social media topics for this particular barrier, and it will do those topics for you. Then you can say, can you create me a social media post for that particular topic? And then can you include hashtags for that? Can you make one for Instagram? Can you make one for Facebook? And you can literally start taking this as far as you want to. The biggest advice I'll give you, though, is to remember what I said earlier. Treat each chat like an individual person, individual assistant to try and help you do it. You can number it like this. You can rename it to make it a little bit easier to manage in there. And that's really the best way to start using ChatGPT generally within your business. Now, I want to talk about some of the other cooler things you can do with this. And to this, you're going to need the pro version of it. Now, to get the pro version, if you head down to the bottom here into the menu, there'll be an option to upgrade to pro. Once you've upgraded to pro, see my plan, you need to go to the pro version. I think it's like $20 a month, something like that. Now, once you've upgraded to that, if you head over into the settings section, you're going to go to beta features and you're going to switch on plugins at the top. Now, a lot of people don't know this in here, but ChatGPT has plugins for it. So I'm going to start a new chat up from scratch on here. And I'm going to go over to number 4. And down here, you can see our plugins. Now, at the moment, you can have 3 plugins active at once. If I hit the drop-down menu, you can see I've got a couple enabled at the moment. You can also look through a plugin store on here where there's lots of different plugins you can use or doing different things for that particular service or whatever it is you actually want to go and use it for. So you can see all the popular ones in here. You can also see all of them if you go on here. So lots of different ones on them. Now, you'll notice that one of these, if we actually go through, is Zapier or Zapier. And as many people know here, Zapier, if you're not sure, is a way of connecting one or more software together. So if you're using something like PT Distinction, maybe using Google Sheets or your calendar or something along those lines, you can actually use Zapier and connect to it from that. So what you do once you've got that set up, you can go in here and you can enable your Zap by checking this box. And you can have up to 3 of these plugins live at any given time. If you want a different one, you just swap it over with a different one. And here you can only have 3 enabled at once within this. So let's say you've enabled Zapier on here, and that's all ready to go. So now if you was to ask it to do something specifically in here, it will do it through Zapier. Now, in your Zapier account, let's say we use PT Distinction as an example for this. Let's say if you're using PT Distinction and you have it set up, and let's say you're using the systems. I'm going to talk about the systems we use over at ptdninja and the white label content and the program that we have pre-built as part of the online personal training certification, which is a super system that many people have probably seen before, where you have a lead magnet, a flagship program, like a membership program. And within that, we have a number of different groups that are all set up and all ready to go. And we have premier packages that are all set up and ready to go. Now, if you're onboarding clients, let's say you have an onboarding process that's set with inside PT Distinction and it's all set up to run automatically. You can actually have it so that your Zapier is connected to PT Distinction. And in here, you can ask it to do particular things within here. So you can actually get it to do like add a client for you, add it to premium package, add it to particular groups and stuff from there. Now, just bear in mind, this is in beta still. The plugins are in beta, so they might not work all the time. This is all very new stuff. You got to think this AI really, as much as it's been around for a while, technically speaking, this type of AI, this kind of what you're looking at here, has only been around since November last year. So it's all very new. So sometimes it might work, sometimes it might not work. Everything is still being tested out. So just bear that in mind. It's not a completely finalized product yet. So it's why you must always apply common sense and logic to this. So for example, you could write in here, please, hopefully this will work since we're doing this live. Please add, let's do a test app. ptdninja.com as a client, as an online client to PT Distinction. So let's do it nice and simple to start off with. And hopefully all the connections are still working and it'll actually show you. If it doesn't, never mind, but we'll give it a go. So this will go in here. And what it should do in a minute is identify that I've asked it to do a zap for me. So I think I've got it enabled on here. Now, bear in mind, like I said, this takes, so you can see it's starting to do it now. So it's looking at the Zap in here. I'm going to get to demonstrate what's happening in the background. So I'll slow it down so you can see what's going on. But basically, now this AI is speaking to it. It's used Zapier and it says it's prepared the action to add the client to PTD. The first time you do this, it's going to ask you to confirm it. So I'm going to do this just to show you the back end so you can actually see what's happening inside here. So it's automatically creating this Zap for you. So I'm going to click on this. It's going to open it up and it'll just get it all triggered and stuff in there. And if you're looking down here, you can actually see the request inside Zapier here. So it's making sure everything's going to work okay. It's telling me that it's all working in the background. It's saying once you've now it's confirmed it, it's saying once you've confirmed the execution, you can log into the results to make sure it's working, and then you can continue the Zap setup. So the next time you do this, the Zap will work and you don't have to go and confirm it. Now, once you've actually done that, you can take it to the next level. That's just added the client into PTD for you. If you wanted to, you could actually say, okay, now can you add this client to this particular group, or can you add this client to this particular premier package? In fact, any Zap that you can set up in ptdistinction allows you to do this. So that means you'll be able to turn on two-way messaging for your clients. You'll be able to, so for example, here, if you wanted to add a client in, you could say, hey, add test Zap as an online client to ptdistinction. Please switch on two-way messaging. Please make sure they are set to mail. Please add them to my 12-week online coaching program package. And it will do all that for you straight away. And what it allows you to do is basically treat this again like an assistant. I still think that's the best way to think about this when you're getting started, is to try and treat this like an assistant within your business to help and aid you on all these different things, like adding in clients to ptdistinction, changing programs and groups for them. So let's say if you have lots of groups in your ptdistinction account, maybe like we talk about something called group stacking over at ptdninja, where we'll, sometimes you can have like hundreds of different groups with different types of things in there. You could actually get this to help you do that, to help you work out, to help you add in the different groups. And if you've got the time, you can train it as well to understand what each of those different groups are for and have it actually give you recommendations on it. One of the things that I've been doing with my program inside here to test it out, I posted about this the other day, about using ptdistinction with this. And ever since then, I've been training it about the groups stuff we have for our super system, about everything like that. So what I've talked about before, we have a single chat and you train it about all the information about your business. I've been training it about ptdistinction. So it can actually answer questions about ptdistinction, but also what it can do is it understands what the different groups are. So I can actually say, can you add this to a group to add calorie tracking to my client, whoever the client's name is, and it will go and do that for me because I've taught it how to go and do that. And that really is the best way to think about this, is think about how you can use it as an assistant. Now, I don't really want to go into too much detail about this too much more now, because with AI, because it is like an assistant, just like Zapier, I suppose, in that case, it's a tool to help you achieve the things you want to achieve within your business, to make things a little bit easier for you and quicker. Hopefully you can see from this some of the ideas about how you can really speed up some of these different things, whether that's inside ptdistinction, whether that's like inside just helping you with your coaching content, writing blog posts and things like that. My main aim here was to try and help you understand the basic principles behind how this particular software works, and how you can start using it in your business to help you with your sales, your marketing, and even when it comes to coaching clients. And also how you can use it using Zapier to talk with different software. So for example, we use ptdistinction here, but you can work with other things as well. Say, for example, if you had programs within a spreadsheet that's set up, you could link this with Google, you could link this with your emails, you can have it do all that for you as well. It all comes down to how you train it, and it's just like training an assistant in real life. And that's the way I want you to try and imagine this, is imagine like you're training an assistant who knows nothing about you, and you're training him up to do a particular job. That's the process you have to go through on this. It just allows you to do it a lot quicker. It means you don't have to go and pay for an assistant either, do a lot of those different things. So to me, that's really how I think to start off with, you should be using AI within your online personal training business. Because if we start looking at, and I'm not saying softwares won't start doing this, some training software is starting to introduce AI in certain elements of their business. A lot of them are held back. And the reason I think a lot of them have actually held back, I'm going to do some more on this in a second. The reason I think a lot of them have actually held back is because of what I talked about earlier on. If we start introducing too much AI into the program design, developments and things like that, we're not offering anything different to what these other apps and things are offering. What we need to focus on is what we offer as coaches to our clients. We need to focus on our ability to coach and help our clients, the nuances that allow us to stand out. Because if all we're offering is customized workout plans, customized nutrition plans that would progress over time based on the data and tracking that they do, there is literally today AI out there for free that does that for your clients. So unless you're doing something else, unless you're doing some subjective check-ins with your clients, unless you're literally having that human element in there, and I think unless as well you're actually niche down to the point where you truly understand your client, the processes they're going through, the nuances that they experience when they go through your program, then really what you're doing is competing against these AI apps that are out there for fitness. And that's going to be a very, very difficult thing to do. And for me, if you can get ahead of the curve now, I mean, within the next year, I mean, Apple are bringing out something pretty incredible in terms of their software, what they're doing with it. And we're going to be competing against that. And it's important that now we get these foundations in place, these fundamentals in place about how to actually coach properly online. And that's exactly why we have the OPTC, exactly why we've still focused and always have focused on these fundamental skills, like how to actually coach properly, how to get results online. That's more than just giving them workouts and adapting them custom workouts. It is more than that. It's about a different approach to it. And I think if you have those fundamentals in place, if you have those fundamental approaches to coaching online, the fundamental approaches to business, and niche down far enough, then you are going to stand out from the crowd and you're going to be extremely successful. And the reason you're going to be extremely successful is because you're not going to be going against AI at that point. You're going to be leveraging it in your business. You're going to be using it just like we've demonstrated there to help speed up processes, to help you create the right content, to help you talk to your niche at such a level they really understand it. That's going to be the key of how you're going to use AI in your business. It's not going to be having an AI chatbot in your app. It's not going to be having AI adapting workouts for your clients. It's not going to be AI adapting nutrition for your clients, because you just won't be able to compete at that level. In reality, unless you've got hundreds of thousands of pounds and resources coming out your ears, you're not going to be able to compete at that level. So it's important that we take the time now before that happens to get ahead of the curve, to be the business people that we are and actually look forward and plan forward about what's going to happen in this industry and really use that to our advantage. And everybody here has the ability to go and do that. I've no doubt about it. Really start thinking about, when you go away from this, go and have a play around with the ChatGPT. Look at how you can use it in your business. Look at how it can help you in certain areas, thinking about some of the key things we talked about today. And then really think about how are you going to structure your business moving forward. If you look in your ptdninja account or whatever it is you're using, and what you're doing is giving them custom workout plans and custom nutrition, then go and look at it again, because you're going to have to do something different over the next 5 years if you want to be successful in this industry. So yeah, that's kind of where you want to leave it with you for that. There was a couple of questions that came in. Someone was asking about the recipe side of stuff. I did mention I'll talk about this, so I will quickly jump on here now. So we've talked there mainly about ChatGPT. I don't want to go on too much longer because I know I've been on for like an hour, which is a long time, but I want to try and get some of these other questions. I'm trying to answer them as I go through. Now, with ChatGPT, you can create recipes. Let me just find a recipe for you that I did earlier and I'll bring it back up. I'm sure we did one somewhere with a nutrition guide. I think it was. Let's have a look in here. Okay, yeah, let's just do that. So let's go and get our recipe guide on here, and I shall find that for you. Let's bring up the screen again. I'll get to create a very simple recipe for you. So if you was to go into, I'll do the smaller screen on this one. Let's go and find a recipe thing for a client in here. Let's not do that one in there. So yeah, let's go and create a fresh recipe. Let's just go and make a very simple recipe for a client. Like, can you write me a recipe? Healthy recipe. Let's do that. Okay. For a male, 35, 6 foot, 2 inches, 100 kg, who needs to eat 2,500 kcal per day. This should be for a time meal. Not super specific, but it'll give us an idea for this one. So it's going to make me a recipe based on this. Again, you can see there, hopefully, that I haven't actually put too much specificity in this. I've basically made it quite vague. The more specific you are, the better it is. The more context, the better it is. But you can see here that it's starting to generate a recipe and ingredients for me in here. I could have told this to do it in any number of different ways. I could have said lay it out in a particular way. I could have added more instructions to it. Anything I wanted to, but a very basic one, a very, very simple one in here. So you can see that's actually come up in that. Now, what I can also do now, so you've got this recipe, and a lot of our clients are now doing this over in the OPTC. Part of the service that we offer with the course, the online personal training certification, is the white label library, and in there's some recipes in it, but there's also a recipe template book. And one of the things you can actually do is you can use ChatGPT to create a recipe like this on here. And this gives it, so basically something you can just copy and paste directly into it. And you can actually click this icon here and it will copy it ready for you. And then you can actually drop that straight into like a Canva template or something, which is what we have over in the course. Now, the thing with recipes is you need images. So this is this question that came in about images and about how you can actually use AI maybe to create images for this. So what I can do now is, again, very briefly, just type in here, can you create me a prompt for MidJourney? I'll tell you what MidJourney is in a minute. So that I can create an image for this recipe. So again, you might want to go into more detail than this, but you get the idea. I'm going to ask it to create a prompt. And what it's going to do now is create one of those prompts. So there's those prompts that we talked about already for this. You've got that prompt guide that I'm going to send over to people that's asked for it as well. So what it's doing now is taking that recipe and it's creating a prompt for another AI called MidJourney. Now, I'm not going to go too much detail on that because you could spend like an hour going through how all that works in there. But MidJourney is basically an AI that actually automatically generates images for meals or anything, images for anything. So you can tell it something, give it a description, and within about 60 seconds or so, it will create an AI-generated image for that particular thing. And you can see now on the screen that it's giving me a prompt, and all I do is exactly the same thing I kind of done with ChatGPT. I would put that prompt in, and it would send me an image back for it. And I just want to give you some examples of like the standard that you might actually see in terms of coming back. I'm just going to pull a couple of these up now just to show you. So I'm going to bring this over onto the screen so you can see. Okay, I'm not going to go too much detail, but all these things you see on the screen now, all these are AI generated images. It takes about 60 seconds, and all you would do is take a prompt like this one from in here, and you would put that into MidJourney, and it would pump out images that look like this. You can then use those images within your recipes and meal guides and things like that. Anything you want to use in it, create it. You can even take it further than that. You can do it for exercise as well. So you can even ask it to create an image of somebody completing a particular exercise, and it can do it for you. Again, it all comes down to the detail that you actually put in. It works just like any kind of AI does. It's still a language-based model. So no matter what AI you're using, you should always treat it like it's an assistant and be as specific as you can. The more specific you are, the more detailed you are, the better the response is going to be from that particular system. So you can easily use this to create custom recipes if you want to for your clients, custom recipes that you might want to send out on packs to your clients as well. You can easily customize all those different things. So yeah, there you go. Has anybody got any questions, by the way? I've been rambling on. I keep trying to pull some of the questions. I think I've covered most of them as I've been through. Sorry, I haven't actually called out your names as I've been doing them. I've just been trying to include them in as I'm going through this all. What I want to do though for the next maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes or so or more if you need it. If you've got any ideas, if you've been using ChatGPT for anything, or you had an idea of how you wanted to use it, then let me know in the comments and I can give you some examples of how you might want to use it or give you some thoughts. Even if I don't think it's the right thing to do, I can still tell you how you can do it. But yeah, we'll go from there. If not, just let me know what you thought, what where you think is a good idea, bad thing, good thing with AI. And yeah, if you found this useful as well, just give me a thumbs up or let me know in the comments. It's always nice to know if people found this useful or not. From there, let's give people a couple of minutes. Cool. So let's have a look on here. So a little question coming in. Use ChatGPT to write some of the copy on my website and I've used it to build out some brand pillars. Yeah, it's really good for that kind of thing. Really, really good for that kind of thing. The more you teach it, the better it actually is. There's some really good prompts for copies on website as well. In fact, you might even like this. If you've got the pro version, I don't know if you have or not, but there's a plugin that's specifically designed for it. Let me see if I can show you which one it is. Let me bring the screen up again just to show you. Which might be quite useful. It might not be in your case because you might have taught it plenty. But let's say if you've got a website, you want to improve the copy on it, there's actually a plugin called Copywriter. Just enable one of them. And that basically allows you to take a sales page and it will give you suggestions for your sales page. So if you ever wondered, like, how do I improve my sales page? Turn on this plugin here. And what it will do is you'll drop your URL in there and it will give you feedback on where you can improve your copy. Again, give it context though. Make sure it knows like who you're selling to. Like, it will be able to identify, hopefully, fingers crossed, your copy is good enough to identify you actually go and help. But you can give it context. So you can give it your link, give it some context who you're trying to sell to, especially if you've got your avatar. You could say, here's my avatar. This is the niche. This is the problem that I solve from. This is my offer. Like, this is the sales page I've got. Could you offer any feedback on this? And it will do it automatically for you. Give some feedback and you can go away and do it. There's even, I'm not going to go too much deeper. Some of these are paid ones, by the way. That one's free. But there's even plugins on there now that will actually create websites for you as well. Literally, it's pretty cool. You can actually put in what you want to do, your avatar, and it'll build a website for you. It'll build the website, you go and look at it, and it'll ask you to pay for it to host it. But there are things out there as well to really help you. So there's literally an endless amount of things you can do on here. What else we got on here? So we got mind blown, possibilities are endless. They really are like endless possibilities with this. It's just like any tool. Don't try and use it unless you've got a reason to use it. But if you've got things that you think it can help you with, then use it. What we got on here? So could I use some of my previous Facebook posts as a way to train it to speak to my language and create Facebook posts? I'm always scared that it's not going to sound like me. My copy is a lot of story-based content. Yes, definitely. So just treat it. So take your copy or content from there, your posts, put it in. Make sure you tell it what you want to do. So explain to it, saying, I want you to act like a social media marketer or whatever. I'm going to give you some prompts to help you with this and that prompt guide that I'll get over to you the next day or two. I'll have it over to you all. But you can give it some context so you know what you want it to do, and say, I'm going to send you some posts to help you understand my language and the way I speak. And to say, here's one post going to help you do that. Here's another post going to help you do that, and start teaching it. And it probably will respond with different things. It might start to make changes and tweaks to it. And if it does, just go back and say, actually, no, I don't like that bit, or I like this bit. And you can start to then teach it to understand how to talk like you, speak like you, sound a bit more like you. And then from there, it becomes a lot easier to create the content. And just remember as well with posts, like I use it for posts sometimes. You don't have to use it straight out. Change it and edit it. One of the things I tend to do a lot is I'll sometimes get some ideas. I'll give it some ideas. I'll ask it to give me like a structure for the post. Give me something to get started with. I'll chuck it in something like Grammarly. I'll make any changes, edits to make it sound a bit more like me. And then from that point, I'll then go and adapt it and adjust it from there. The other thing you can do with that as well, if you want to, if you've got a particular style or approach that you want within your content and your posts, you can do that. So it recognizes people, like famous people. So if you like Alex Hormozi, for example, and you want to have his style of approach for sales, or Russell Brunson, if you want his style of approach for like sales copy, tell it that's what you want and say, I want you to do this in the style of, or in the voice of, or the context of. And if you do that, it will recognize that person. It will understand how to write in their particular way, and it will create it in that particular way for you. So if you've struggled, maybe like you've got a story and you want to put your story post in there, but maybe you want to turn that story post into 3 or 4 different other posts. Maybe you want to turn that story into a blog post written in a particular style. It can do that for you as well. It's all going to be about the specificity, like how specific you are and how much detail you actually give it and how much you want to train it. Again, just make sure, though, you do it in their own chats. And you can have as many chats as you want to. I like to have a few just to keep them organized. But each chat is like, again, it's just to remind you, it's like the best way to think about it. It's a very simplified version of this. The best way to think about it is a chat is its own assistant. That's the best way to think about it. Yes, this is the cool thing. Just like the voice control to ChatGPT, it's a Google Chrome extension. Tell AI to interview me and then generate content based on words. Yeah, it's a really good way of doing it. So again, there's loads of different things out there now. There's loads of extensions. Again, if you've got the pro version, check out the plugins. There's loads of cool ones. The ability to speak to it's really good. And again, if you don't like writing and putting things in, speaking to it's a really good way as well to teach it more about you. Just like you mentioned here, using the voice controller. Get it to ask you questions. Again, be specific if you're going to get to do this. And then, yeah, it'll learn more about you. There's some pretty cool things you can do. I like talking to it. And that sounds really weird and strange, but it makes it a little bit easier than typing all the time. So I'm with you on that one. Cool. Do you have any other questions? Anything else anybody wants to see or go through? Any other ideas? Anything else you want to look at? Any worries or concerns about it that I can maybe help with? Let me know. Only a couple of minutes. If no other questions, then I'll leave you all to it for the rest of the day. Awesome. I think we are all good in that case. Well, if that's it, then I'll leave everybody else to it. Not a problem at all. You're more than welcome. If you do have any questions, you watch this on the replay, feel free to drop it in the comments, and I'll do my best to try and answer as well. And yes, I think this is a very important thing. It's only a problem for those that aren't prepared for it. There definitely is. I mean, whether you like it or not, this is happening. And that's one of the things about business. And I think it's an important thing to remember is a lot of us will see, we treat ourselves as personal trainers. We treat ourselves as, we're personal trainers and we run a business, but it's not. We need to look at it the other way around. We need to remember we are personal trainers that we are business owners that offer personal training or online personal training as a service, which means you have to start treating things like a business owner, which means you have to take utter and full responsibility for everything that is happening in your business or to your business. And if the world changes, the environment changes around you, then you have to go and adapt for that. If you don't adapt for it, then in all honesty, that's your own fault for doing it, because you have to take responsibility. That's what part and parcel of being a business owner is. So as long as you're prepared for it, then it'll be all good. So yeah, keep it simple, leverage it where you can. Try not to think about chucking loads into like the software. Like there are going to be people out there who are going to use it for, chatbots, for automating workouts and things like that. Honestly, the data I've seen, the way I think this is going to work, to compete in that market is going to be very, very difficult. And the ones that are going to succeed are the ones that are going to keep that human element in there. They're going to be extremely specific in their niche. They're going to have all those fundamentals in place for their business, and they're going to use fundamental online coaching. They're going to know how to take their skills, transfer them online properly, and actually have that coaching element within their program. They're the ones that are going to see the most success, I think, when it comes to online personal training. And then, yeah, I think that's the best thing I can leave you all with this. Awesome. That's it for me. Thank you very, very much, everybody. And I will see you all very soon. I'll be back on next week. I can't remember what the live is about next week, but I'm sure I'll let you know throughout the week. And that's it for me. See you all soon. Cheers, everybody. Bye-bye.